Good evening, and thank you for coming. This is Friday is reserved for basic Buddhist teachings, but that's changing up as this evening. So I renamed this evening Dharma Escadrille. Anyone know what Escadrille means that hasn't looked it up? If you looked it up, I don't want to hear what you have to say. What?
Camera is on,
What camera?
the camcorder camera.
It is? What does that mean?
I don't have to walk through everybody and turn it on.
Pardon me. What?
I don't have to walk over there and turn it on because it's already on.
Is that what Dharma Escadrille means? So did anyone look that up? Escadrille?
That's what you've got right here as an
It's
escadrille.
an escadrille. Everyone, it used to be an old, from the French, fighter unit. A group of people going into combat. I like military images. Sometimes. So basically, it's what I want to talk about is community, is a group of people getting together and working together. It's very difficult to do. For those of you who've been in the corporate world, realize how hard it is to get everybody together to work on a common project or common situation. Very difficult. In our community, as it's been going on for centuries, is the idea of the Sangha, or the spiritual community, the Buddha's Dharma, the Sangha, of the teacher, the teaching, what's being talked about or taught, and the community of people who are endeavoring to understand that. Very, very important to do what I call CCC, communicate, cooperate, collaborate. I've said it many times, I'll say it doesn't hurt a bit to talk about it again. It's about communication, is about hearing, about listening. What is being communicated or said, or someone is trying to talk to you about. And even though that sometimes that communication, because of the person's delivery or the person's kind of confusion, may be very circular, and they may have difficulty, quite often they do have difficulty getting to the point, and by the time they're done, you really don't know what it is they want to talk about or want to tell you about, or want to know about, if it happens to be a question. I think it's important to just do it anyway, to continue to return to that. To even say to someone, could you say that again? Or could you paraphrase what it is you just said? In other words, engage the person in such a way to help draw out what it is I'm recommending that you listen to. Of course, you'll have some people that just will not talk. They don't really want you to hear their confusion. They would rather present as having their proverbial feces together. Our community has been very challenged lately, especially in the last couple of years. Starting with the whole COVID thing, we somehow came through that COVID situation, not doing too bad, considering the way some things come apart. In this situation, we have to align ourselves behind, and when I say behind, I'm not talking about obeying anybody. If you can find some area where this old man has requested you or asked you to obey him, then please let me know about that. I'd like to hear about it. There's recommendations that you should follow, forms that we should observe, but we kind of have an agreement if we want to practice, whether we're fully ordained as monks or lay ordained, or maybe there's no ordination, formal commitment at all, doesn't weaken your connection with the path, as far as I'm concerned. It's up to you how you want to do that. But it's very important to do this as a community, support each other. One of the reasons we have all of the forums is so that we can see how hard it is to observe them. It's always about awareness, never about obeying, although some Japanese traditions have as far as I can see, have misunderstood that and turned it into the code of Bushido or obeying the general, whatever, samurai. Not against that either. Maybe some people really need to have that kind of obedience to the leader. If you do, you probably won't be here. Having, for those of you who are been around a while, I have a pretty close connection with everybody. I've talked to you about in private interviews, especially about all kinds of differentiation that's happening in your mind stream, hopes and fears, all that stuff. Do the best we can I do the best I can to encourage you to train your mind to see clearly and not necessarily to be somebody else. So if you're having a difficulty in one area that other people don't have any difficulty in that area, I wish to help you with that so that you can see it clearly, not so that you can overcome some kind of challenge or habituation. Not about fixing. Sometimes fixing something tends to work for a little while because it functions more like a cover-up. But a lot of our medications these days seem to be kind of cover-ups. So in order to do this, we have to have Sangha that, the literal way of saying this, runs pretty smooth. There can't be a lot of bumps and lumps in it. We have to communicate with each other. We have to consider anybody's complaint or recommendations about this or that and listen. I try to listen if someone comes up with recommendations about how to change things in here. I think I've even asked someone to write it up and let me read it. I don't think you've done that yet, have you? You had some suggestions, sounded interesting. I said, write that down. Let me take a look at it. You probably don't have time. Or whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm going to say, I'm just using you as an example. Someone said, well, couldn't we do this? Couldn't we do that? Or do this or do that? It's like, one suggestion recently was that we put a bunch of money in the community room downstairs. I'm very interested in hearing that. I may not do it, but let's talk about those things. Had someone even not too long ago who's not here, and is really not invited here right now, that suggested we, because of their disturbance around what they thought I was up to, recommended we get somebody come in here and find a way of replacing me. That was my understanding of what they were saying. This is a person who had been to one community meeting. We should listen to the people saying that. But they might have to listen to me bark back at them a little bit. And we don't have to go into any details in that area. I just want to, there are examples of where we really need, it's really a very, very good idea to have a community, an escadrille, where we're focused on how are we going to help each other realize our true nature. The military example only works so far. I'm not talking about attacking the Prussians or anything. I'm just saying that we have to work with these three poisons of passion, aggression, and ignorance, and recognize them in ourselves, recognize them in others, and find out how can we support others. Maybe just by coming here and functioning as a Doan when nobody else is here, but there's time for a Doan to sit there in that seat where the timing is done and hold that seat for 2 hours. Strike the bell at the beginning, strike the bell at the end. Maybe nobody comes or goes, but that form is there. That is so important. Very important. We have people on here that will join in more than likely with the Ango that's upcoming, starting tomorrow for 28 days. Community is so very, very important. That's why it's one of the 3 jewels. That's why it's so difficult to just have a teacher and no particular teaching, or just have a teacher and a teaching, but no particular community. Seems to be necessary to have all 3. I can take some questions if there are some, please, or commentary. You can listen to me blow my nose. Yes.
In your mind, when you talk about community or the C's, you talk about 3 C's. So far,
3 C's.
you've delineated communication, and maybe I've missed the other 2 C's. Could you say what those are?
communicate, cooperate based on what the communication is kind of happened, what has happened in the communication. And then collaborate based on seeing you really might need to work arm in arm with this person in order to have the energy or the momentum to take care of a particular issue or problem, which shows up all the time here as far as plumbing problems and just very pragmatic things, but also as far as running the community. We have 3 functionaries: the Sukansu, the Shuso, the Ino, and they basically support the forums, create the forums, and then draw people into them so they can help with the practice situation. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, and I think when you're buying, you implied it needing to work together with the Escadrille group of people going into combat. So if we have communication, cooperation, and then collaboration, how, with that definition, group of people going into combat, that sounds like warfare.
Well, it is warfare, but we're just using the image. I just like that word, escadrille, and I like French people. I like their language, and I wanted to. It just came out of nowhere. I just wanted something other than just sangha or community, I wanted to use something that had a little bit of mystery behind it, a little bit of maybe a little romantic idea behind it. But if you take it into the warfare that's been going on for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, this is still going on today. So I'm just borrowing a little bit of that, which my teacher, Chogyam Kongpa, used military images also quite a bit. Not against it. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I know what it's like to be trained to kill people. I'm very familiar with that. So I'm not just making use of some kind of romantic military idea. But I'm also not necessarily talking about going into war to attack an enemy, unless you characterize the 3 poisons as enemies. Escadrille. It's in the Marine Corps, it's called esprit de corps, more French words. Means the spirit of a unit. Corps means unit or body. Esprit, spirit of a unit. This is how we get all these young 18, 19, 20-year-old men or women to go into combat and sacrifice their lives for the spirit of a unit, just protecting their brother or their sister. It's a terrible thing to do to young people, to get them to go to war for billionaires. But that's what's happening. Quite tiring. I know I was 18 once in the Marine Corps. And I was convinced that that was something you needed to do. Yes.
And you mind, so just the title of this Friday evening, Dharma Escadrille. Is there, as aspiring bodhisattvas, how can we take that going into combat, but related to the Dharma? How do we do that?
Well, damn if I know. I'm hoping to get your help. I don't know. I can't justify anything. Warfare is quite often used for those kind of images are quite often used in fighting the Dharma, protecting the Dharma. Cut the throats of the Dharma perverters and that kind of thing. It's everywhere. It's all kind of tantric literature is filled with passion, aggression. I'm not trying to push it aside, nor am I trying to necessarily use it. Escadrille came up about, 25 minutes ago in my mind when I was thinking about groups. I was thinking about community. So that is the name of this Friday night meeting. It's not the name of this. This is about community. Escadrille means group. So this is what it'll be called every Friday until I change it. Until somebody changes it. Maybe it won't be me. That means that next Friday, well, there isn't one, is there? We have a whole month to sit back and wonder what that March Escadrille is going to be about. By that time, I might have changed to something else. I don't know. Do you have any ideas? Can you see where I'm at with it, or are you still perplexed by why I would use a military image?
When you're buying both. I guess the perplexing part comes from your comments you've made on occasion about your teacher who actually had their uniforms and other things that were leading towards the military.
Yes.
And you have reported that you talked to some of the members
Yes.
who said, oh, no, it's not military, but it is. So is it necessary for there to be a Dharma military?
You mean like an army? I don't know, certainly look pretty scary out there. I mean, how do we know we're not going to be shut down right here? As some kind of a invading force or something. You don't know what's going to happen with the half the state of Michigan deciding they want a dictator for a president. That's how it looks. Is that how it is? I don't know. Maybe someone can clarify that, so I won't take that presumption. Well,
When you're buying, so what are we protecting?
here,
Mhm.
so that we can have a place to practice. Because this has no pragmatic means. We have to there's no product of service here that's identifiable. Even if we talk about studying the Dharma, we don't test anybody. You don't have to. No, there's no test you take. Your life is your test if you want one. And so we're protecting the space so that we can actually do something that to the pragmatic or the rest of the world looks useless. It's somewhat validated or justified because people project so much on a monastery or a temple or something like that, that there must be some kind of spiritual reason that we don't understand. So they might get a pass. You tell somebody you're going to Tassajara or Green Gulch or Shambhala Mountain or Rocky Mountain Dharma Center or somewhere like that. Sounds pretty highfalutin. But to actually go there and practice, not easy. More? Further questions? Please don't hesitate. Yes, sir.
Sure, Brian. I think you used the term spirit of the core,
Esprit de corps,
spirit of core,
spirit of a unit.
and using that military image, is there something like that functioning within Sangha?
Somewhat. I thought more so for a while, but I don't know, maybe on individual level. It's gotten quite ragtag lately. And I don't know what else to say, but more to ask about or comment on.
Shokuban, just what would that be, or what's the Sokugoji equivalent of using that term?
Esprit de corps, work together as you all have the same vow. If you're in here, especially if you're wearing robes or if you're wearing rock suit, you have a vow to be with all things, the vow to save all beings, the vow to put others before yourself. And I can probably look at every single one of you and remember a time when you and I have talked, you weren't exactly putting others before yourself. I'm not going to call out any names. And I would be happy if you'd like to point out to me when I'm not putting others before myself. If it's time when I'm greedy and just getting my own way with everything. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying I'm pretty good at hiding that. Go ahead.
Shokuban, it seems like in the Marines, there's a conditioning that happens.
How can you make any comment on the Marines? You're not in there.
I almost went.
Huh?
I was almost in there.
You almost went in? Boy, did you luck out by not going in there. What were you going to say? Pardon me for interrupting you.
There's a conditioning to get
Yes.
a group of people to have a vision that is so strong that they'll
Yes.
die for it.
Kill people.
Is there a conditioning like that here, or
Yes.
is there that kind of a strong?
It's similar. Save all beings. Put others before yourself. You repeat it. If you're a fully ordained monk, which you are, you should be returning to that vow every day in one way or another. even if it's only pass in front of your altar and repeat the refuge or the Bodhisattva. You should be doing it. If you're not doing that, then of course it's your practice, your business. But why even be a monk? You're going to live your life and then just ignore the path that's 2,500 years old.
Shokubang, I think it seems like in that situation, there's a common understanding of how that looks or how that should be to where that they can function together so well. But
No, say more.
like if they're going into a combat situation, it seems like there are certain structures or conditioning to execute that in a way in which their
Of
team.
course, it is military, so it's much different. But yes, there's trainings that you go through that I went through extensively, called a fire team. There's a 4-man or 4-person fire team with a fire team leader. And then there's various positions dealing with the weapons they're carrying and how to go in and move into a particular area in a particular strategic way. Yes. So we're doing something like that when you come in here and you bow to the altar. This is a chunk of wood in the shape of somewhat of a person with gold leaf on it. This is no more sacred than that tripod, but it's just as sacred. But everything is sacred. There is no profane anywhere from the point of view, as I understand it, of the Buddha's Dharma. Everything is completely holy and sacred. But it's not something you believe, it's something you see. You begin to see it with your own eyes, nose, tongue, your body, mind. You begin to perceive this. So coming back to where you're trying to use that image, and that's what this is for. That's why we bow when we come in here. That's why we bow to the altar. That's why we go through the practices that we go through. We offer incense, we offer flowers, we offer tea offerings. We have different ways of relating to this that are kind of empty of any inherent meaning in what we're doing, but are full of the gesture of generosity towards everything more.
Shokubang, when there is that esprit de corps in our community of these forms and the intention, how do we as a community include or work with the differentiation of how that looks to us or how that shows up as
You stop and respond as clear as I can. You notice that your particular differentiation has to do with undervaluing one thing and overvaluing something else. Picking and choosing. This is an environment where you don't have to do that. You might do it out on the street. You might do it at the local tavern, or you might do it anywhere, the bowling alley, or at your job. You might do it. But in here, you have the opportunity to just function as consciousness relating with forms. The personhood is pretty washed out in here. Other than this is an old man sitting up in front. So is this person functioning as a teacher? Yes, for the next half hour or so. This person, when this function ends, this person doesn't walk out to the parking lot as a teacher. There's just movement towards the car. There's no person there. And right now there's no person other than a teacher. More?
It seems like sometimes that distinction or that differentiation is quite strong or quite potent. So how do we work with that right in the midst of the really?
It's very simple and it's very hard. Just return. Just return to the vow. Return to the vow to be with all things. Return to the vow to do good, not do harm. Refuge in the Buddha is an example of someone who was not nuts, was not at war with anything. Refuge in the Dharma is the truth that he taught. There are no separate beings anywhere. There's just consciousness only. And return to the Sangha, of the community of people that are trying to understand this with their own consciousness, with the support of the teacher, the teaching and the community. Support that. Esprit de corps. What do they call the Dharma? Escadrille? Dharma Escadrille. It's just a group of people with a common understanding what to do, not necessarily getting up in fighter planes or dogfights, which is what they were during the First World War. Further questions anywhere? Yes.
The image that keeps coming up for me is circling the wagons. Is there a threat to this mandala that?
Well, if you're Indian, you circle the wagons. And if you're pioneer, you take the wagons in a circle. Big difference. More?
Which one are we doing?
Hmm. I don't know. I was looking. I'm not here to interpret anything. So what do you want to know? Enough fooling around here. What do you want to know about that?
It feels like we need protection from a threat.
Yes, we have the threat inside that showed up here a few weeks ago. It's just someone from hardly even knows us that hasn't spent 15 years or whatever in here, but just suddenly hears a rumor of something and comes in and just dumps their reaction all over everything, and is still doing it on text, or at least it was the last I heard. So the only way you can protect yourself is you have to have some limitation, but we can't make it so tight that we never have the doors unlocked. For years, we never locked anything here. People were coming in and robbing us. Remember that? Next thing I knew, there's some money gone. If somebody came in and needed money. So we need to protect this so that people can practice here. Yes.
Will this affect our ability to be inclusive? Somehow?
Affect our ability to be inclusive. Come on, elaborate a little bit. What do you mean? Jodo, what do you think? Answer that question. You can't do it either.
Some more.
Good more.
Coming up.
Okay, joke it out. I've had enough of your silence. What?
What's the question?
Whatever. I don't know. What was your name again? She's concerned if this will affect our ability to be more inclusive by being, is it too cloistered or too shut off? Limiting people, will that affect our ability? I think that's what she's asking about. I can respond to that, but I wouldn't mind hearing what you had to say about it.
I'd say no.
You said no. Your worries are over. I don't think so. It's always very situational, so we have to look at the situation rather than just by just laying down a thing that this is the way we're going to do it. Then you start welcoming demons into your environment. We don't want to do that. But we have to be generous. We have to live up to a standard, being really kind and really generous to everybody. Don't do that. Not a good idea. Some people, they don't even know that they have horns 6 inches off the top of their head. They don't see that, and other people don't see it, but you will see it if they start coming towards you. This does not make them incurable or worthless, or they should be murdered or killed, but we just need to be aware of who they are so that they don't start running those ribs or those horns into our rib cage based on their anger and their fear. Protect it, protect the mirror, protect the mirror of the Dharma. This doesn't mean make excuses for the teacher. I know you understand what I'm saying. I don't think I need to explain it. You've just been involved in stuff like that. Further question?
Anything
Yes,
else?
sir. Nathan.
It's maybe just a comment.
I've never been in the military, but I do have, friends and family that have been in combat. And usually what they emphasize is not so much the discipline of the military or what's been imposed upon them by the government, it's the camaraderie and the sense of the willingness to sacrifice for each other that they have,
You hit it.
the selflessness.
You hit it.
And also, once they leave, the loss of that feeling of having a group, like a tribe, that's got your back. And also the fact that, no one is ever strong at the same time or weak at the same time. You simply, you have to carry those that are feeling weak at some time in the unit, and they carry you.
Good
So,
point.
That's it.
Thank you, yes. That was didn't get as close as you did, but yes, this is how they get people to murder and kill. They make sure that the spirit of that unit is really strong there. Having been a Marine, I know what it's like to be in a situation. I was not in combat, but I was trained to do it. So there was a lot of simulation going on. To actually feel like it's correct to murder someone because they're the enemy. This is how you do it. But then the supporting each other is very, climbing the side of a 3-story building on a rope, you're going to need some help. So you'll count on those people that are with you and they'll help you. Good point, thank you. Further questions or considerations in any direction? Yes.
Mr. Bowling, I think you've talked about the Sangha in the past as the way we support each other is not necessarily relying on or leaning on each other.
Yes.
I can't remember the opposite of
Yes.
that, but how, if we are not to rely on our Dharma brothers and sisters, what does it mean to be a member of the community or a part of the community, or how do we interact with?
Well, since it's a spiritual path, the reason for being here, there's a little bit of community and some social interaction going on, and it's very good to do that. We need some of that. But fundamentally, we are endeavoring to help each person here realize their true nature, realize the fundamental truth of the Buddha's teaching. That's what we're here to do. So one of the things you can just do is just be present with others when they're practicing and practice with them. It means so much that we have people right on here right now that they aren't here very much, maybe once a year, if that, but they're here. They're on Zoom. We have this technology that we didn't have a few years ago, but now I can look here and there are people that I recognize. There are people out here I've never met face to face, but they're here all the time. It means a lot to me to look down and see someone's name that I've been looking at for 6 or 7 years. I've never met. I may have never even had an interview with them. It doesn't matter. There's something about this situation that supports them. And of course, if they feel supported, they're showing up. That's supportive to me because I feel like they're here and they're listening. And maybe perhaps what I'm doing, what we're doing is a benefit to others, albeit we may not know exactly how. I understand what the benefit is that I cannot, and I can't put it into words, but I've been doing it for many, many years and it will take a lot to stop me. Help will probably do it. So more about that?
June Spelling, I'm not sure how to ask this, but some common idea that seems to be showing up in society lately is that you need to kind of cut yourself off from people that don't support you or give bad vibes or something.
Yeah.
So if there's a lot of discord in the Sangha or you just don't like someone, how is it helpful to not cut them out or still be around them or present?
I completely understand what you're saying, and I can say by way of information and by way of maybe getting a little bit of a credential, I've been involved in a Buddhist spiritual organization of different kinds since 1973. That's my credential. We have a lot of experience in it. It's hard, but I would say it's very situational. The people that you have a good connection with, you're going to stay closer to. You have some camaraderie, some communication, some support in that area. Some other people just seem like a lot of what they're doing is to scare up a lot of gossip and reinforce a lot of negativity. And so it's so situational. Just like not to go into any detail about anything, just recent things that have been happening, just it makes it very difficult. And because it's difficult and we don't know exactly what went on, it's very easy to, it's almost like it has some kind of magnetism to get you, almost not force you, but draw you into projecting ideas and judgments and evaluations onto that situation, which doesn't need them. You can actually just not know what that is. And coming back to your inquiry, I would say you'll know if you're talking to someone who is stirring up a lot of gossip and commentary, and especially if you hear it where there's nothing substantial there. It's just hearsay. They just like to talk in very negative ways about people that they may be jealous of, or they may be irritated by the way they were treated. There's any number of causes and conditions that could bring that up, and those aren't near so important as the way in which you receive what shows up. Just receive it. Don't add to it. Don't push it away. Don't fluff it up or comment on it, and certainly don't ignore it. It will not be comfortable, but it is the path of awareness, not the path of right and wrong. Much more difficult to the ego mind to work with because you can't get many results out of that. And it just, you keep getting hit in the face by the first noble truth. Life is suffering.
Yeah.
Yes.
Onabang, what is our responsibility to protect the Sangha?
Well, it varies with the situation. You live right here in the monastery. You've been here for many years. How is that showing up to you situationally? Do you feel there are times when you just know how to do something in such a way that is protective for the community, either just by security in the building, or possibly by the way someone is working with their understanding of the Dharma in such a way where you can step right in and say, that's a misunderstanding based on your understanding. Follow me a little bit on that? Again, to come back, not to try to run away from a more direct response, but it's so situational. And it's best not to come up with a protocol for how to do that, because a protocol might make you feel safe. You know what to do, you know what the rule is, you know what the law is, but it shuts out the incredible relativity and variability of all the situations that arise in our minds or in our families. It doesn't allow us the space to look at each situation as it is and understand in the situation that needs to be covered, or that needs to be opened, that needs to be moved to one side, or otherwise dealt with more.
Onabang, so what, I realize that it's quite the open-ended question.
Yes.
But it seems like there's some, by virtue of joining this community, that there's some sort of agreement that we're making to consider the community, not just ourselves, not only ourselves, but
Seems to be pretty strong in this community. I mean, sometimes it goes awry and gets all kicked out of shape, but somehow things settle back down. Right now, we just had a big upset. As far as I'm concerned, a very big upset in our community, but we'll just keep working with it more. Eugene?
Eugene Bowing. I would like to say thank you for including us online into this discussion, because it seemed to be for a while a recognition of something is going on and not really knowing. So thank you for letting us open the door for us.
Yes.
I also would like to say that I'm hearing words to show up, to return, agreement in the community or towards the community. I'm wondering, what is the commitment? Is there a place for commitment which people make when they join the Sangha?
It's your commitment. And that commitment is only going to be as strong as your understanding of what that is, what that vow is, or that commitment, and your awareness around your own intention to meet that vow, be with all things. And you may not be able to be with all things because your ideas about those things are a lot stronger. Your opinions, your ideas, your judgments, your evaluations, your conclusions may stop you to look with clarity at what is in front of you. The whole vow to be with all things can be just smashed because of the intensity of your own emotional reaction to everything. Coming up with hatred, resentment, and so on.
I like the word spirit, which you used in the description of that French word. And how do we build the spirit of the Sangha?
The spirit is already the case. You just stop covering it up. It's already there. All the energy you need for the spiritual path is already there. You don't have to develop anything, create anything. Now, if you feel this is different, then do something else. I've said that probably hundreds of times by now. I'm quite cranky. You see it differently? You do what you need to do. Trust yourself. Trust this. I don't recommend you believe your thoughts because that's going to take you in circles that are going to look like straight lines. It'll take you right into the hell realm or the God realm, which is saying the same thing. Yes, sir.
Yokabang, I have several questions on YouTube from other areas of Dharma.
I bet.
Damien Bowing, who are you? Who is answering me?
A giant mouse. That's you, everyone's listening. And I'm speaking just totally cheeseology. Does that help? Was that Damien?
Yes.
No wonder you got that kind of answer.
And Yokabang, question from Ath in the UK. What to do when the mind gravitates to ignorance or distraction so violently due to immense suffering?
It's a general question. Of course, I could say, get out of the room. If it's somebody else, leave. It's about awareness. It's not about never avoiding something or about never ignoring, or it's about awareness of it. Most important recommendation I can give you is spend a lot of time holding still when looking at the wall so that you can, over time, can eventually see the nature of your mind, which is without a self. This takes a long time.
Yokabang, question from Spool String.
Full string. Why don't you move to Nova Scotia?
He's asking how to get an interview, so I referred him to the website, but also Sokuzan speaks only of only sitting is when everything ceases, less and less care about what ceases. How can I, what is it that ceases? Let me say it again.
The movement. The movement ceases. Ceases moving. Now, go ahead, ask me what moves. I can continue to be silly, but you know, if you can tell me what you want to know, then I can respond very directly. But if there are kind of elaborations, then it's hard for me to respond without further elaboration. That's not going to help you. That's the same thing about the talking cheese. Actually, that's esoteric, tantric language. And only you people who've had the ear whisper transmission will know what it means. Am I that boring? You're gonna yawn. Jishin is tired. No way. So is I'm tired. Jishin is here and she's wide awake, and Junshu is tired. Are you tired? Did you sleep yesterday? Today? No naps?
No naps.
Nap more. And after you're done, sit more. Have a few minutes. If there's another question or two, we can certainly, or we can end.
Yeah, I got a question, Joe Bowing.
Go ahead.
What's the most skillful way of dealing with rejection and heartbreak?
But certainly a hard one. Doubt. And when you say skillful way, it's that there again, it's so situational, heartbreak or rejection. We all kind of have an idea what that's about, but if you're a meditator, if you've been meditating for a long time, you might want to just stop meditating and go to a movie. When I say that, I don't mean completely escape and get away from it, but you might need to do something in that area rather than try to force yourself down the tunnel of awareness. It might be good to lay off that for a while. Just hang out. go buy a new shirt. I'm not kidding you. I mean, relate to your relative world. Use that as your anchor rather than try to go in and clean up your mind stream. The mind stream is probably going to be flooded with the difficult feelings, emotions, resentment. You know what I'm saying. It's probably not a good time to do much mind training. You're really heartbroken.
There's just this kind of incessant urge to look outside of myself for completion or kind of happiness, and always feeling like get into this pattern of looking for something or someone else to make life better, or to it's like that something is missing, and always like falling into this trap of thinking that I can attain happiness or completion through somebody else, but always realizing that that's probably not the way to look. So just looking for it's like trying to overcome this habit pattern of my mind and consistently failing and getting discouraged. So I'm just looking for advice as to like how to cut this out. Like,
How much sitting meditation do you do right now? In a week's time, or an average of the last month, how much meditation have you done per week?
probably, if I'm honest, probably around 6 to 10 hours per week.
Not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Not
How much per day?
You have a full-time job?
Yeah.
8 hours a day?
8 hours a day?
Are you working 8 hours a day?
Yes, sir.
Then sit an hour in the morning and an hour at night before you leave and after you get home. And just schedule it, and don't look back and forth about whether you should or shouldn't. Just schedule it and do it, just like going to work. Instead, you go to the cushion. And then it's time to go to work, come home. Instead, you're putting in quite a bit of time, sitting down, holding still, looking at the wall. And I'm talking about the kind that I teach, eyes open meditation, not mindfulness. I'm not against mindfulness. I just don't teach it very much anyway. Mostly it's shikantaza. You can do that. That'll help you. Won't solve it, but it will get you closer to the way it's caused. It's very important to see why you're getting those headaches. The why part of it is because you're taking in that, or stirring up this bunch of confusion rather than actually just looking at it.
And when these emotions, these storms constantly arise, just watch it and feel it. Is that the only thing to do?
Well, not the only thing. I already gave you a couple of ideas. Go buy a shirt, go for a walk, do something distracting, deliberately distracting, but at the same time, you need to be sitting for a couple of hours a day too. Because if you're not, then you're trying to solve the situation and you're looking for results. Or if you're doing a lot of sitting, the desire for results will be cut through just by the awareness practice itself over time. It's not gonna happen in 6 months. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Joe Belling.
Is there a final question anywhere?
Jishin Bowing, Abby wrote that she appreciates of being included in Sangha, and that she has never been there in person, but still feel very connected to all of you.
Yes, thank you, Abby. And you're one of the people I was mentioning when it says I look on this screen every day and I see your name. So I know you're there. I don't know if we've ever talked, maybe once in the last 5-6 years, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a participation in this that supports us. Not anybody functioning a certain way or coming to every single one of the forums or asking 50 questions.
Dedication.
You want me to comment on Ongo? So starting tomorrow morning from 8 o'clock till noon, is that correct? And then from 2 to 4, and then from 6 to 8. No,
We're done at 4 on Saturdays.
that's right, Saturday, so we're done. Done. Yeah, all the rest of the day is just gonna be,
Except one Sunday.
huh?
Sundays we end after your Dharma talk.
Yeah, so aren't we gonna sit all day at some point?
You can.
I can? Okay. Okay, well, anyway, Ongo starts tomorrow at what? 8 o'clock, 8 AM. We go till noon, and there's a little bit of change in the afternoon, but anyway, you can do that first 4-hour sit. Every one of you should join in a little bit. Just come on and sit and put the screen on your back so we can see you facing the wall or the side of you, or you can look right at your screen if you want to, if it isn't distracting. Whatever you want to do. Join us. I'll be here as much as I can, as much as my health will allow me to be, and everyone else will be here as much as their situation, their job, or their other commitments allow them to be. But let's do it a whole month. This is our third year of doing this 28 or 29 day ongoing to this year's 28 days. So okay. Dedicate the mirror.
May this penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. The 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.